Being able to get immersed in a game's world is a magical experience. From world building to beautiful visuals, every piece of that game is a part of that immersion. Silent protagonists take this a step further, allowing you to insert yourself into the protagonist role. You are the character you're playing as. That is you in the world. This is your story. Back then, when video games were young, using games as a medium of storytelling was a lot simpler. You didn't have complex stories with as endearing characters as you have today. A lot of early games centered around a single premise, and that premise is what drew people to it. In Mario, the storyline is as simple as the princess has been kidnapped and we have to rescue her. In Pokemon, the objective was quite literally in the slogan, gotta catch 'em all. That's not to say complex stories didn't happen, they just weren't as common. Making your character silent really wasn't even a matter of not giving them a voice actor, it was more like just not giving them any actual dialogue. Before voice acting, dialogue was mostly just text. It's not even a concept lost today. There are still games coming out that just don't have voice acting. But back then, it wasn't even a thing. Silent protagonists worked because no one else had a voice. You could get behind being someone else because there weren't any other voices to take these other supporting characters and raise them to a new level. It was just you and your imagination. Even protagonists who had dialogue and were full-fledged characters weren't voiced. So silent protagonists really just made sense. But as you start to traverse the years, voice acting becomes an even more common thing in video games. You start to see it go from simple grunts to a few sentences to just full-on voice-acted video games. At that time, it wasn't entirely true that silent protagonists were problematic. I mean, a few voiced lines and cutscenes isn't really enough to bring down a character. It's when voice acting really takes over that you can start to see some of the effects.
Stop looking down on me with that stupid smile on your face!
You begin to see party members brought to life by voice actors who are really good at what they do. But then you start to also see the cracks in some characters who remain silent for most of the game, if not the entire game. To be abundantly clear, this is about characters who are supposed to speak. They very clearly speak in the game, but you can never hear them because they're silent protagonists. This is not about characters who are mute. Those are two very different things. Johnny Young Bosch voices Persona 4's protagonist, Xander Mobus does Joker in Persona 5, and Zach Aguilar voices Aether in Genshin Impact. The list really goes on, but the point is that these characters still have a voice. So why not give them a chance to talk? They don't need to be fully vocal and fully written into the dialogue as another character talking, but they could at least have their answer choices in dialogue voiced. It definitely burns a bit more when the character and their respective VA is able to shine in an adaptation of a game.
Dude, what just happened? Something bit me.
Whoa! Anna left teeth marks too! Are you okay?
I might be dying.
No, you're not.
And that's not to say you can't execute silent protagonists well. In Persona 5, as an example, Joker is given tons of personality outside of his dialogue. The dialogue choices give you an insight to his personality, but he also has actions and cutscenes where he acts on his own. You're given a glimpse into that personality that he has, though you may not be able to fully see it. Recently, there have been a few games that give voices to their main characters.
Easy as pie. Now we just need to test it to make sure it's working fine.
Test? On what?
Oh, come now.
These either happen in dialogue options or just in conversation. While neither of these games are ones that I stuck with for a very long time, it is important to note, at least to me, that this is the part that left the biggest impact on me from those games. It's certainly better than giving your character another character to speak for them. In the case of several silent protagonists, they come with a character readily equipped to speak for them. A very well-known example of this is Genshin Impact's very own Paimon. Now, if you don't know Paimon, well, now you do. Basically, Paimon is used as a voice for her own character as well as the main character, the Traveler. And that can make her a bit much.
You're saying Dane is from Conria? The same Conria that was destroyed 500 years?
When you have emotional scenes that don't have to do with Paimon but instead with the Traveler, they don't tend to hit as hard because Paimon acts as the voice for our character. It's a pretty huge detriment, in my opinion, to Genshin Impact itself, as the player character already has their own backstory and has an emotional tie to the events happening in-game. I couldn't tell you why Genshin at least doesn't offer the option to have the main character speak, as they do speak in their own voice lines in their character profile. Even in the first cutscene, the traveler speaks, and then suddenly they're just mute for the entire game.
How many years ago was it? I don't know. But I intend to find out.
And I can't find a bigger reason other than some weird self-insert crap. But alas, here we are. Again, it's not inherently bad to have a silent protagonist. I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept itself, as long as the character is supposed to be a blank slate that we insert ourselves into. When your character very clearly has a voice and a personality, why not let them speak? Emotional moments definitely land better when you have all characters talking. And sometimes when your character doesn't voice their dialogue options, it can lead to very awkward scenarios, like this one. It really does depend on how well the character is portrayed as a silent protagonist. In a lot of cases, I don't really think a silent protagonist hampers the story, but in a lot of cases, I feel like they could elevate it if they weren't a silent character. And ultimately, it's up to the team working on the game. You can't pin this on a single person. However, I personally hope that a lot of games will do away with the silent protagonist. Maybe you could make decisions for the character, but you don't necessarily have to be a self-insert into that character. I don't really know. It's a confusing topic because I know some people really love the concept of silent protagonists, and there are other people who don't. Unless a character is meant to be mute, as I said before, that's an entirely different thing. I really do think that there's a lot of potential in giving every character a voice. It could add so much to the game and reduce so much of the other awkwardness that games can have without voices. But do you agree? Or maybe you don't. I don't really know. Let me know in the comments though. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more anime, game, and JRPG related content. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye.